Okay, here's another example. First example we're going to do. We're going to take 20 and 38. Now we're going to do each one of them and we're going to break them apart. For 20, we have 10 and 2. And 2 is the prime. And two numbers that go into 10 is 2 and 5. And both of these are primes. Now we're going to do 38. 38 is two numbers that I can think of are 2 and 19. Now, we know 2 is the prime. But 19, we'll think about this for a second. 19, what numbers can we think of that can go into 19? The only thing I can think of is 1 and 19. So this is also a prime. And if you're not sure, you can divide it by multiple numbers and see if they come out with a fraction or a decimal. If it does come with a fraction or decimal, then you know 9. Okay, now what we're going to do next is we're going to look at all the primes here that we've circled. Look at the lowest one first. And we're going to look at each tree and see which one we want to take it from. So let's look at 38 first. So let's make a list of 2's for each prime. Okay, so 38 only has 1 2. So there might be more 2's out there. When we look at 20, there's 2 2's here. There's only 1 here. So the 20 tree, or 20 branch, works better because there's 2 of them. This beats this one. So we're only going to take it from the 20 tree. So we're going to have 2 of these 2's. Now since we took it from this one, we ignore any 2's anywhere else, either on this tree or another tree that we might be doing. We're just going to take it from the 20. Now we're going to do the next one, 5. Let's do the primes of 5. So for each, we look at for each tree, but there's only one 5, so we're just going to take it from that one. Now we look at if there's any more primes. What we have is 19. And there's only one of those, but we look at both trees and see which one has more. But there's only one. Now we have these numbers. We're going to multiply them all together. So 2 times 2 times 5 times 19. Okay, and if we multiply those all together, you get 380. And that is the number, the least common multiple. Okay, so don't forget, when you take multiples of 20 and you make a list of those, all the way up to whatever number you want to stop at, and you take the multiples of 38, make a list of all those, you'll see that those two lists will have certain numbers in common. And the lowest number that they have in common is 380. Okay, we're going to look at another example now. Let's look at 6 and 5. This one could be interesting. So let's start with 6. Let's break 6 into 2 factors. 2 and 3. We know those are primes. Now let's look at 5. We know 5 is a prime. What do we do with this one? Well, we just leave it as is. Well, we can also break it up into 1 and 5. And both these are prime numbers. Now, you don't have any competing numbers. This one doesn't have any 2's or 3's, and this only has 2's and 3's. This one doesn't have any 1's, and this one doesn't have any 5's. So we're going to write all these numbers down. And we're going to multiply 2 times 3 times 1 times 5. And what do we get? We get 30. Now you're trying to think, well, you could just multiply 6 times 5 and you get 30. But yeah, sometimes The least common multiple is when you multiply the two numbers together. It happens only when you have smaller numbers. But you can double check yourself and do the factoring of each tree and then count it and multiply it. This just happens to be 30, the least common multiple. Okay, let's look at another example. This will be the last one that we look at. Okay, we're going to look at 48 and 36. Okay, let's break up 48. 48, I can think of, if you divide 48 by 2, you get 24. And 2 is a prime. Now we're going to need to break this up to 24. What two numbers can break it up? I'd say 4 and 6. Now neither of those are primes, so we need to break up 4 and 6. So let's do 4. 4, that's 2 and 2. And those are both primes. And 6, we know we can break that up to 3 and 2. And those are both primes. Okay, so we've done with all the primes on that number. Let's do this one now. This one, break it up in 18 and 2. So if you divide 36 divided by 2, you get 18. So this is a prime. But 18 is not a prime. 18 we need to break up to 6 and 3. So if you divide 18 by 3, you should get 6. And 3 is a prime. And we also know that 6 is 3 and 2. You can break that apart in 3 and 2. And those are both primes. Okay, now we're going to look at both trees. Let's start with 2, because that's the lowest prime number that we have. And we're going to look at both trees and see which one has more of that prime. Now, let's count here. 1 here, 2, 3, 4. 4 in this tree. 1, 2. There's only 2 in here. So this one has the 4th. So 4. 4 2's right there. Now we're going to look at the 3's now. Which one has more 3's? This only has 1 3 here. This has two 3's. So let's take the 3's from here. There's only 2 of them. Even though this has a 3 here, we're going to ignore it. We're just going to take the 3's here. Okay, now we're going to multiply. We're going to multiply these numbers together. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Times 3 times 3. If you multiply that all together, you should get 144. That's pretty cool. And that is the least common multiple for this number, these two numbers. So if you took multiples of 48, you make a whole list of that. You take the whole list of 36, you make a whole list of that. And then you look at the common multiples they each have. The lowest one will be 144.